in the schools right now? How can we improve on racist incidents in the schools? How do we curb that? What advice can we give the schools? Sabi, send me an invite, please. Sabi, send me an invite, please. What advice can we give the schools? Schools in terms of improving their curriculum about teaching Black history, talking about people of color, Indonesia's affairs, things. What's going on, Sabi?
Nothing. How are you?
I'm good. How's everything today?
Everything's everything. Busy.
Good to be busy. So before we start, let people know exactly who you are and what you do, because I know you do many things and you wear many hats.
My name is Sabi Hinkson. I'm the president and founder of the Strong Hinkson organization. I am a math and science teacher, and I am the family outreach coordinator at Loyola High School, and I am the mother to Kiara and Tanea.
Okay, nice. Now, you've had a lot of experience in schools, the private school system and the public school system. Do you see a big difference?
I see a big difference in the sense that private schools do not have school boards. So a lot of things that we have to deal with are dealt with a lot quicker, and there's less people to go through. So I find now that I've switched to private school that things get handled in-house a lot quicker.
Okay. And what exactly do you do at Loyola High School, please?
So as a family outreach coordinator, it's similar to a diversity director. What I do is I basically go out into the community, and Loyola is an all-boys school, and I look for boys who are potentially good for Loyola, meaning they're hardworking boys who have good values. And there are some places that just don't know about Loyola, or they think that because it's private and it's expensive that they can't afford it. But Loyola has a lot of bursaries for people. Okay. And so I just go out there to raise awareness that, that school is available to them.
Okay, now, is your goal to bring in more people of color or anybody?
So diversity in the sense of just not even just more people of color, people from different areas, but of course we have Black boys that are attending there now, and so of course we would like to see the numbers of Black kids increasing.
Okay, yeah, because I know quite a few Black kids are starting to go to Loyola since Denver Reed started working there and yourself started working there.
Yeah.
How did you guys persuade the school or parents to send their kids to Loyola?
How do we sway them to send them to Loyola?
Yeah. How did you you meet with the parents, but how do you convince them? This is the school to send your kid to rather than sending him to a public school.
Well, I think for both Denver and I, we are parents ourselves, and we know the kind of things that we'd want for our children. And so we just speak to parents just as how we would want that people to speak to us. Because for me personally, as a parent and a teacher, what I like about Loyola is the smaller classroom sizes. There's almost no limitation on resources. As a teacher in the public school, me wanting to do certain things, I've heard so many times, there's no money for that. We don't have a budget for that. We don't have a budget for that. But going over to Loyola, it's like, hey, this is what I want to do. And they're like, that's awesome. Here you go. So there's just so many resources. There's so much support for the kids. There's so many after-school programs for academia, so many clubs. There is something for everybody. It's so inclusive.
Okay, so let's talk about, you mentioned something very important. It's so inclusive. So let's talk about the inclusive programs that you have after school or during school.
Well, what I mean by inclusive is that, sometimes kids who don't fall into the bracket of I'm athletic or I'm artistic, there's nothing for them. But I swear Loyola has a club for everybody. You like playing chess, you like robotics, you like this. And if there is a club where a kid does not fit in, trust me, this is something that Loyola is going to look into, and they're going to make it happen just so that someone has a niche. Everybody has a niche. Everybody feels like they belong. Everybody feels like they can be themselves.
Okay, so let's talk about an incident that happened recently at a private school in the Sheen, College St. Anne. You had kids with a shirt that said NIGGERS on it. You also had kids on the school ground that had Ku Klux Klan looking gowns on and black face on. Now, if that would have happened in Loyola, what kind of things would you guys take and do in order to prevent this from happening and in order to take action?
Well, I can't speak too much to us what would happen there because I've only been at Loyola since January, but I know that at Loyola they care for the entire kid and they would more want to realize where this is coming from and try to deal with that issue. Like, where are you seeing? Okay. And then they would actually, like, there's accountability. They're very heavy on accountability and responsibility, and they're going to look to see where they may have dropped the ball and what they could do to prevent that in the future.
Okay. So we have Debbie Edwards. She says, agree with stricter policies about diversity training for management and staff as an ongoing awareness programs throughout the school year to change the culture before you can safely, responsibly implement zero tolerance. And I think that's a great point, Debbie Edwards. Having some type of diversity training and management for staff. What do you think of that idea of all schools, whether the public or private, having diversity training for management and staff?
That is absolutely, professional development is something that always needs to be done. It doesn't matter if you have your teaching degree and you're an amazing teacher, professional development. And that's the problem. A lot of these teachers have no idea on how to deal with the diverse climate of their schools because some of them started off teaching and the schools were predominantly white. And now things are changing and they're not adjusting to those changes. So it comes from the top down. They have to be enlightened and they have to realize the psychological damage behind words like the NIGGER and stuff like that. The teacher needs to be aware of this. And this is where I see someone drop the ball and professional development is needed at Lindsay Place, because how did they see something like that? And that didn't trigger something to say this is totally wrong and we can't do this. So that just shows that the teachers need to learn how to work in a diverse environment as well.
Mm-hmm. A comment from Jillian Bentley Sr. She says, the same way they have zero tolerance for fighting drugs should be the same for racism. What do you think of that comment?
I've voiced that many times in regards to what's happened at Lester B. Pearson. It needs to be zero tolerance for racism because the thing is, school, you need to be comfortable. The kids need to be comfortable. They need to feel inclusive. Sense of belonging is very important before a child could learn. So if they are being ridiculed for something like their skin color, something that they can't change, this is psychological damage. This is a feeling of defeat. This is when a child realizes that their skin color can work against them like a handicap, and it's very discouraging. And it's things like this that has very high dropout rates of Black kids because people have not been paying attention to how they do not feel included in their learning environment.
Okay. Keith Solomon says, in the public sector, there needs to be a complete overhaul in the curriculum. What are your thoughts on that?
So, absolutely, there's always been issues with curriculum, but as you know, like I said, with the public school, there's a lot of things that need to be done before you can change the curriculum. But as a teacher, I know that it doesn't even need to go that far. Teachers as of September could start making a change because you have a responsibility to make...
Say that again. Teachers as of September?
Teachers as of September, you can make a change yourself, cross-curricular. How? Bringing in Black knowledge into your lessons. So as a science teacher, if you're teaching a certain module, there are a lot of Black inventors who've done amazing things. Look that up and bring that into your lesson. Because that's the thing. Everybody's talking about Black history, Black history. Black history did not begin, and nor does it end with slavery. We need to talk about Black essence and Black education. We need to make these kids aware of the amazing contributions that Blacks have made to their everyday lives, because that's the thing with kids. What you're teaching them has to be relevant. If it's not relevant and they can't resonate with it, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. You need to tell them things like the 3-color traffic light was made by a Black man. The biggest blood bank on a large scale, that was a Black man that started that. You need to have them understand and respect and value people who are not of the same color as them.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are with Sabi Hinkson. Can we get some hearts and some likes for Sabi Hinkson right now? She's preaching right now. She's breaking it down right now. Give us some hearts Give us some likes, people. Come on, man. Come on. So, Sabi, one of the issues I have is that we put a lot of our faith into schools. But what about the role of Black parents?
So,
in terms.
So the whole thing is school, community, parents, these are all intertwined. You cannot separate one from the other. So Black parents have to allow their kids. So and when a situation like this happens, I really appreciated Michael that he went out and he spoke his truth right away. Parents have to empower their kids and support them and back them. And I saw his mom in the video, in the news video, and she was there and she backed him and he spoke his truth. And that's where it's going to change, because people think that we're protesting and we're pulling the race card and this is not really an issue. And why they think that is because people have not been speaking out. Why have they not been speaking out? Because they're discouraged. They've spoken out before and nothing's been done. But we can't give up that fight. We have to continue speaking. And you see what's happening? A lot of change has been happening. People have been speaking out, calling out racists, using their social media for positivity in the sense of raising awareness. And there has been so much change in the last couple of weeks. Imagine if we keep that momentum, and if Black people stay united like this, like we are now, imagine if we keep that momentum. Even a year time, things would look different.
But now, do you feel the momentum is dying down?
I was just telling my friend that too. I said, you know what? I said there was so much energy, so many allies. A couple of weeks ago, it was, and I was afraid of that. I said, is this a trend? Or are people really allies, and are they really fighting with us? And I think it wouldn't have had that much attention if we were not in a pandemic, right? And everybody was at home. And then now that we're back to normal, some people have forgotten about it, but I still appreciate that it happened in a pandemic and there was a wide audience and people got to see that Black people united, Black people stood up for each other, and we had allies. And, you know, I'm going to... The moment not stop for me. I'm going to keep on pressing.
So what advice can you give to our young Black leaders, our leaders, to continue the momentum? How do we continue the momentum, but also what advice can you give to our young Black leaders, our leaders, to continue the momentum? How do we continue the momentum, but also use this momentum in a strategic way? Because right now, honestly, I don't find that the Black community is being strategic enough. It's a lot of talking and not enough organization and working together as a whole.
So, as I said, Black kids, keep on speaking up. And you know, you use your social media, you share things about stars and stuff like that. Share things about amazing Black adventures, amazing Black people. Do that every day, once a week. Tell yourself you're going to do that once a week and not just during Black History Month. And as parents of, so I know that there are a lot of schools that do not have Black educators. Kids need to see themselves and people in power, right? Representation matters. So until we start getting more Black teachers in the school, what parents need to do is we need to see what Black community organizations exist within the community of your school and link that link. If the school's not going to do it, you do it. Tell the school, well, this Black organization is in the neighborhood and they're willing to come in and have a presence and be around. Are you up to that? Parents have to be proactive because no one else is going to do it for our kids. We have to do it.
Yep. Kifana says the yearbook incident is like the H&M ad. It was approved by someone, intentionally or not. We can't let them get away with it. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously there was a teacher that approved this. What would you do if you're the principal of the school or the school board? What should be done?
Well, that's the thing. Professional development right away. Like, they need to learn why this was wrong and how they scarred this kid for life. This is his graduating year, and that's why I said they should give him a scholarship. You guys, this is how you put him out into the real world. He left and going out into the real world with this on his shoulder. You guys can give him a scholarship so that he can start a little bit. It's all about equity. You guys set him far behind the line with this. You guys could do something. And a Facebook apology, that is not enough. And an apology in person is not enough. This is damage for lifetime.
Scholarship. I like that. I like that idea. Give him a scholarship.
Yeah.
That's something that I'll definitely bring up to the school board. Justine McIntyre says, Sabi, you're doing a great job explaining the importance of supporting kids' self-esteem so they can all feel valued, which they need to be able to learn. Empress Diamonds. It's not only Black knowledge, it's also about Native history as well. And I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
Empress Diamond. No, we are a Native land. We definitely have to speak about Native history.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Schools need to reflect. You need to look at your student body. And if your student body, they have Greeks, they have this, they have that, you need to be in tune to that. Like, you need to keep up with the culture and the climate of your school and make adjustments. Like, I was talking about the intercultural policy that Lester B. Pearson put in place in 2001, 19 years ago.
Okay.
And I just like, the measures that are in there, had they been following it, incidents like this wouldn't have been rolling out so much. So you have to hold these people accountable. In Ontario, a director of education has been fired. Why? Because they didn't feel he was doing enough to help kids to fight anti-racism. They said he was not doing enough footwork. They fired him. Okay. You have to hold these people accountable.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's someone in charge of anti-racism at any school board here in Montreal. I don't know if that exists.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, all these things are public entities, right? And all their stuff are published on the website, and it's up to us. And that's why this is why I advocate for situations like this, because education and being educated is so powerful, because you know how to figure out certain things. So when I see a child uncomfortable and in his learning environment, I get really upset, because I feel like you're stripping a child of his power when he's not comfortable to learn. So all that being said, this is stuff that these are good questions that you're raising, and we can find out the answers, because it should be public. And if it's not public, then we can ask the board to disclose that information.
Yeah. And I want to, Keith Solomon has a very interesting comment. It's easy to be an ally on social media, and I agree. It needs to be more than just social media. Julian Bentley says strengthen numbers. We need to stick with it. Yeah, strengthen numbers, but also we need to work more together. I find we're still fragmented in the Black community.
Absolutely.
It's very frustrating. It's very sad. You know, I try to do my best, but man, like, sometimes you try to work. It's becoming cauchemar.
That's why we're an easy target, right? Because we're divided, and we know that we don't stand together. And that's the thing. Like, I try to do my best. I am only one person, but I try to spend my money in the Black community. I try to promote Black businesses. I try to fortify the Black community. I try to, like, link us together. Oh, I need someone who can do this. I try to recommend a Black person, because we need to unify. That is why we're being bullied. We're an easy target.
Yeah, I agree. And for those who just tuned in, we are presently with Sabi Hinkson, who is a teacher, a family counselor. She also has her own foundation, nonprofit. And I want to read an interesting comment from Allison Saunders. I like this comment. I'm advocating for change in my city, in my neighborhood, at my workplace. I won't let my allies rest. I'm working where I can make a difference. That's a great comment, Alice, and I think everyone needs to do that also. Just not hide behind your screens and talk about it, but you have to effectively get out there and make a difference. Whether it's writing letters, whether it's knocking at the mayor's door, at the city council's doors, at the provincial and federal elected officials. I mean, we elected them. We're paying them. They have to listen to you. Another thing I want to speak to you about that I find also is killing our community, and I hear it often in the schools when I go visit schools, is the use of the N-words. I find it's very loosely being used, not by Black kids only, but by non-Black kids. What are your thoughts on that, and how do we educate not to use the N-word loosely in the schools?
You know, I battle with that. It's such a hard thing to go around, because these kids are listening to music where these rappers are using it loosely. And
yeah, I know.
I realized, so I'll speak about a specific incident. I taught at a school that was predominantly, there was a lot of Black kids and not a lot of Black teachers. I think I was one of two. And I heard this one Black boy, he hangs out with all white guys. And they were making like, little racist jokes, and he was laughing and stuff like that. And so I pulled him.
Who was laughing?
Pardon me?
Who was laughing?
The
Black kid was laughing?
He was going along with it. So I have
trying to fit in.
And that's exactly it, right? When you're a minority, they try to like fit in. They try not to seem like they're pulling the race card. They allow certain things to slide. And I had told him, I said, listen, do not let them make these jokes. I said, because one day they're going to say something that's going to be really hurtful. I said, you're going to turn around and punch him. And I go, and guess who's going to get suspended and expelled, because that's what they like to do to Black kids. I go, you, not him. So I said, do not encourage that. And the same thing I tell my kids, like, let's not use the N-word and whatnot, And, people say, well, it's context, it's not the same and whatnot. And then these kids, there are Black kids in school giving white kids the pass, right?
Yeah.
So they're saying the N-word, and they're like, no, miss, so-and-so gave me a pass. So a Black person gave them the pass. So there needs to be this whole education for everybody. And it's not just the whites, and it's just a whole collective. We need to be aware of the damage that we're doing to ourselves, even.
Yeah, it's so important. Like when I do the Black History tours, and I speak about the N-word, and I tell everyone, whether you're Black, green, blue, yellow, you're not allowed using that word. Whether it ends with ER or A, you're not allowed using that word. Nadine Wilson says, Lachine Mayor and the police have had a forum with the community on race relations before the George Floyd incident occurred. After the incident, Mayor spoke to the panel to share her empathy. And I think it's great that, the Lachine Mayor did this. And I've seen other mayors also, put up on the billboards, Black Lives Matter. But at the end of the day, what are they doing concretely to make a change? And that's the thing that we need to hold these mayors accountable for. What change are you doing? It's great to speak about it, but what changes are you doing? So for the incidents, the incident happened again. I want to go back to College St. Anne regarding that incident. If you were the principal at that school, how would you have dealt with that situation?
Oh, they would have had to. First of all, they would have been suspended, right? And that's the thing. Like, I would need to know what the policy is, because there's policies in place, and that's where the loopholes are, right? What is the policy? What is the policy for something like that, and what are the repercussions? But they would have gotten suspensions, and they would have had written work and research to do on the matter. Please believe me, it would have been a learning experience, and their hands would have hurt because it would have been handwritten, and they would have never ever wanted to say anything like that again, and an apology.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Even with the girls from John Rennie, I said, make these girls do community work. Send them to Montreal North, Saint Michel, Little Burgundy, Roxborough. Let them go work at a Black community center, and then also let them sit down with their parents, do workshops on Black history. And I like the idea of having them actually write something. That's a really great idea.
Yeah.
Nika Nemi says, in Ontario, they have provincial laws against discrimination in schools, and in Quebec, it's only a generic definition of bullying they have a law against. Yeah, that's something that could be interesting to bring up to Premier Legault. And I've asked this question to many leaders, do you know in the community who is talking to the federal level politicians or the provincial level politicians about these issues, and that's representing the Black community? Do you know what's going on that level?
To be honest, I am not too sure about that. But I do know, I will say this. I respect people like Tiffany Callender, Kemba Mitchell, Shayna Thornhill. These people, for me, are people that I look up to, like Dr. Sabrina Jafrali. These are people that are vocal. They go, I've seen pictures of them with people, with politicians and whatnot. So, and ongoing. This is not just now with this current situation. They are very active and advocating for our Black community, and I just applaud them for that.
what do you think of having an official lobby group or advocacy group for the Black community? Do you think that would make a change?
Absolutely. And all of this is not. All of these problems stem from a lack of representation, right? So if we're represented and we have a voice, then we bring our reality to the drawing board, right? If they're making all these decisions and we're not there, they're not going to think about us because, first of all, they don't understand us, right? Not everybody has empathy, and empathy is not something that will even fix certain situations. So we need to be present, right? And that's another thing too. Like if Black people were represented even in that high school and oversaw that situation, somebody would have said right away, you can't print that in the yearbook, right? Like this would have been a thing. So representation matters. We need to be everywhere, and we need to have a voice.
Yeah. Allison Saunders says the Point Claire mayor won't talk to me. Interesting. Well,
wasn't he the one that said there was no racism or something, no systemic racism? He said something the week before the John girls, because they were trying to push for him to put Black Lives Matter, and he said, it's not really an issue over here, but and then lo and behold, the following weeks, West Island people have really showed that racism is alive and well.
Yeah.
But Shaheed, I was listening in on because I was at the commissioners meeting, and you did mention how, because there is CLC, right, where
community learning center,
absolutely, and that something happened and you guys were no longer in the schools, and I think that's an issue in itself.
Terrible.
They didn't deal with that.
Yeah.
That's how that's how we're gonna combat racism. Yeah. Where you don't have teachers, well, fine. We have community leaders, Black community leaders, who will be in your school, and there will be a Black presence. So this is something that we need to fix as well.
Yeah, that's something I brought up at the last meeting we had regarding the task force. They wanted to meet the community leaders, where where one of the things we brought up is that a lot of schools deny us Black community leaders access to the schools. And when I was doing my Black History tour, I didn't do many Leslie Pearson schools, but for my anti-bullying tour, I did a lot of Leslie Pearson schools. But 2 of the 3 schools that I did that were part of the Leslie Pearson is because parents called regarding a racist issue that happened in the school, and convince the principal, hey, you need to have DJ Malik come in and do his Black History presentation at the school. And the Black History presentation, it's getting rave reviews. When we went to Ottawa, we shut down Ottawa. We went way up north in Quebec, we shut that down. Across Montreal, we shut it down. So if you're looking to have an interesting perspective on Black history, a take, DJ Malik's available. Come to your school, and you will not be disappointed. And I want to go back to having representation. And this is something I went through at Music Plus. I remember where they wanted to air a Pharrell concert, and it had the N-word all over. I'm saying, you can't air that, right? And the woman's trying to argue with me, why? You got to use the radio edit. You know what I mean? And I have the same problem when I go to boxing matches. You have the DJ, they're not playing no edited version, and they're playing the N-word all over the damn arena. It gets me sick. I've gotten to arguments with DJs. So you got to play the edited version. So, anyone in the boxing game, any boxers, this is where your chance to step up and say, hey, you got to play the edited version of these songs. You know what I mean? So, I want to go back to you talking about the curriculum, where you're saying where teachers can adjust the curriculum in September.
Yeah,
I want to touch back on that.
It doesn't.
That's interesting.
Like I said, it doesn't need to be an overhaul of the curriculum right away. You have the power as a teacher to incorporate things into your lessons, and then the whole thing too is there are people who they've studied this stuff, like Dr. Dorothy Williams, who is a historian who specialized in Black history. She had
from Little Burgundy.
Exactly. She has made an amazing ABC Canadian Black history kit. So you don't have to sit there and reinvent the wheel. You make your school buy that kit because that lady has studied this stuff for decades. So you don't have to do footwork. Make the school board buy it and figure out how you can incorporate it into your lesson. It could be you can incorporate Black history and Black education into math. You could into history, into science, into anything, because we are everywhere. We are everywhere.
Yeah.
So it can easily be incorporated, or you can even have kids, in order to, for diversity, ask kids where they're from. And during your lesson, say, okay, I need you to find a scientist from your country who contributed to this topic. You involve the kids. Let them feel like they're in charge of their education and they're giving you some education. They love to have control. They love choices. Incorporate the kids into it. It doesn't take a whole leap of time. And like I said, it's not something you have to go to the board to. As a teacher in Quebec, cross-curricular work is very much encouraged, where you're bringing in math and science and math and all this stuff. So why not bring in enlightening these kids about the people who are around them?
So is this something that you do at your school? Or you do those type of workshops?
I don't have in Loyola, I don't have a classroom. Like I said, I'm out in the community more, but I do. I used to put up stuff on my wall during the school year about amazing Black people. Like I would put it up all the time, and I would switch it up every month, that there's a new person on my door, because I'm heavy with that. I'm like, everybody goes hard in February, which is the shortest month of the year, and then nobody else is passing on like Black entertainment, sports, and music. It's good. We're good at that. We know that, but we're good at.
I don't talk about that. I don't talk about that in my presentation. No, I don't want to hear no sports. No, I don't entertainment. No.
We are good at everything. You can find us everywhere. So like I have one of my friends. Her sister just graduated. She became a medical doctor. She's younger than me, and now she's Black. Like I studied sciences, and I remember when I started in Concordia, I was the only Black woman in my class, right? Like there's underrepresentation in science too.
Yeah, and I want to ask you something about that. Before I ask you something, I just want to read a comment from Amy King. Amy King said, I have a Black CEO and it makes a huge impact in my organization. We need more Black leaderships in schools. And I agree 100% what you're saying, because, and this is outside the schools, I've sat down in many meetings with city officials that represent diversity and culture, leisure and sports and all that. And when you sit at the table with them, there's not one person of color. And when you're speaking to them and you're trying to explain them things, they're looking at you like an alien. You know what I mean? So these are one of the things that, myself and other people will be going to visit many mayors and asking them about, what exactly will you be doing to become more inclusive and to understand the needs of just not the Black community, but the Indigenous community and the community of people of color. And, we have to step that up. Now is the opportunity. I've heard that there's less and less teachers, Black teachers, right now. Is that true, that there's a lack of Black teachers available?
Absolutely. I was subbing for many years, and it was a lot of the time I'm the only Black person there. And furthermore, like in the STEM, like in math and science, it's like 1 in a million. There's not a lot of us. So
how do we encourage young Blacks to become teachers, or just people in general to become teachers?
Well, and that's why I said why this all goes back to representation. They grew up just seeing white people as teachers, right? And then in their school, they're seeing the maintenance technician is of color, or the sports coach is of color. So that is what they're seeing. That's their environment, and that's what they're mirroring, right? So at least until we get Black teachers in the school, like I said, having the presence of community leaders in the school, being around, and then being like, oh, well, what do you do? Oh, I do this and I do this as well. And it's like, oh, really? They start seeing what goals they can achieve for themselves. I looked at a study last year where it was predominantly white in the it was predominantly Black in the United States, right? But all the staff, all the faculty was white, and only the custodians were Black. And the graduation rate was very low, below 50%. It was very low. They got a new Black director. She changed upstairs.
This is in Montreal.
No. This was in the United States, but it goes to show what happened. So they got a black director. She hired black staff, and then a black faculty, and all of a sudden the graduation rate of the school increased drastically because these kids aspire to be more because of what they're seeing. You can't tell kids, do as I say and not as you see, right? They have to see these things. They have to be a part of their environment.
Because you made an interesting point, having more community organizations work in the schools. How do community organizations go about working more in the schools? Well, because there's a lot of pushback, and that was one of the things that we had spoke about at the Less Person School Board meeting, is that when we present ourselves, there is a lot of pushback. And one of the things that really bothered me when I had my issue was that everything was left in the principal's hands. The principal had the power of the school. So how do we get Black community leaders, people to work in these schools?
Yeah, well, you strike while the iron is hot, which is right now. And like I said, being aware of the school policies, you could have brought up the intercultural policy that they have on their website that says that, they need to have liaisons and ties with communities, with community organizations where they have funding to include diversity in the school. They have that in their policy. So you have to hit them with the stuff that they've put out there for public knowledge and hold them accountable to it, because that's what a policy is. You're allowed to say, well, hey, section 2.9 says that you want community leaders in your school. So what about that? As soon as they start seeing that, it's now legal.
Yeah. I mean, the issue I had, I did all that. We went to the school policy. We put everything out. I brought parents to the board meeting, and they just blatantly said, we had a special program for regular kids, and we had a special program for Black kids, and they just blatantly turned me down. I mean, it was like very frustrating. You know what I mean? And then the other problem also is, when you go to these meetings, there's not many people of color, And the other thing that's happening that a lot of people aren't noticing is that there's a shift in the English schools. And when you go to the French schools, it's the opposite. It's 90% kids of color. When you go to the French schools in Montreal, actually 95% kids of color. So
the immigrants, they can't go to English school.
Yeah. So the majority of Black parents are in those French schools, and there's not many kids of color and Black kids in the English schools. So this is also a problem with the parents. Sabrina Marie says, how about a Black professional day at school? They can come and talk to students, what they overcame to get where they are, being the only Black student or employee, inspire them. I mean, Sabrina, I think that's a great idea, but again, it comes down to the school principal. And one of the things that we spoke about in the meeting with the Less Person School Board, it has to come from the top. You can't give the power to the principal. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them will say, well, I don't have that many kids of color. We don't need this in the school, Brian Smith said it starts with a conversation. Yeah, I agree. It starts with a conversation. But then, it all depends on the open-mindedness of the individual you're dealing with.
Yeah, but like you said, I know it gets frustrating and you get tired. But look at what happens when you're relentless. Like I saw the article, I saw the whole yearbook thing. Someone sent me the video. I sent it to every news outlet because they weren't aware of it, and then they started pumping out the articles. You have to use your social media to the best of your ability, because they don't like to be called out in public. Behind closed doors, they're telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that. But as soon as you start getting the public involved and they start looking bad, you better believe they start examining themselves so that they can hush people. That's what you have to do. You make them feel uncomfortable, and you make them, you call them out, and then you start seeing some change happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think conversations like this also, we need to have more conversations like this. And I think it's so important that we educate each other. Allison Saunders, I need you to inbox me. Allison Saunders, send me your email, your information, please.
Allison is on. Allison, are you on? You're on Lester B. Pearson's. Oh no, she's the other mom in one of the articles. Yes. Okay, she's from the West Island Black community. Absolutely.
Yeah. want to organize the event in Point Claire.
Okay, yes, awesome. Yes, I knew her name rang a bell. I just can't see the picture. Yeah.
Kifana says charter schools here are mainly black in the U.S. With black kids because of the neighborhoods they are in, but they promote going to college. Each class is named after a college, and with the year, the class will graduate from college. It's embedded within those kids. Yeah, I mean the U.S. is like light years ahead of us in terms of that. So, what do you have to? What would you like to say to everyone, Sabi? What would you like to say? What would you like to end off on?
Let's pick back up that momentum. Let's keep being vocal. Let's stop being silent. Let's stop letting them silence us. Let's stop saying, "Oh, we're discouraged. Nothing's gonna happen." Because if they had that mentality hundreds of years ago, we would still be slaves. If they said it's too hard and it's not going to happen, we have to keep on pushing. We have to educate our kids. We have to empower our kids. We have to have a dialogue with our kids. Let them tell us, how are things at school? How are you feeling at school? Do you feel like you belong? Like, these are conversations we need to have with our kids. And as soon as we start seeing that our kids don't feel uncomfortable, we start looking into that. We have to I keep on remembering when the commissioner said in the meeting that, Lester B. Pearson School Board is pretty good in terms of racism. We don't have very many incidents. And my head went, I said, "Excuse me?" And I was like, as a white man at the school board, how do you know that? You know, how can you be so bold as to make that? And you know what? That's our fault because we haven't been vocal enough. So every time you're...
It's true.
Huh?
No, it's true. And for me, when that incident happened to me, I wanted so badly to take it to social media. But, just out of respect, I didn't take it there. But I wanted to take it so bad to social media. If you were to see the way they treated me, like a second-class citizen. I even had to send an email off today to a public servant. And I explained to them, man, the way you talk, the way you act, the way you treat, your tone, your attitude, you know what I mean? Obviously, you didn't get the message of what's happening right now on TV. You know what I mean? Like, we got to tell them, like, I can't be, don't want to hurt feelings. Like, the time is now.
No,
you know what I mean?
Feelings, because our feelings have been hurt over and over. And I love what Sabrina says. That is very important. That black parents need to be involved, parent committee, volunteering. That is really important, okay? Because when they see the presence of the parents, they don't mess with the kids. I was on governing board. I was on home and school. I was carpooling. I was there. You're not going to mess with my kid. I'm there. Right? So it's true because they think that these black kids are alone and nobody's advocating for them because, the parents are not there. You need to be involved. You need to at least, like stuff like governing boards once a month. Just commit to that. Be on your kid's school's governing board because you also get to see all the logistics and stuff that goes on and you have a say in that. So she's so right with that.
Yeah. Nadine Wilson says, principals do not decide. For over 15 years now, it is a board that includes parents, teachers, professionals. Principals have had their hands tied for years. As a child care worker for over 30 years, I have seen the unfortunate changes. If parents get involved, they can affect change. You hear that, people? If parents get involved, you can affect change. So everyone needs to get involved. Stop hiding behind closed doors. As you said, it takes once a month, 3 hours of your time. Nika Nami says there's a ton of systemic racism in schools. A lot of time, black children and children of color are put in class that carry, and the special groups, very discouraging. And you know what? Right now, everyone's talking about the English school system, but the French school system, they also have a lot of issues too. You know what I mean? There's so much work to be done, but I'm glad there's people like yourself out here doing great things, and I myself will continue also to push the buttons. Next week, I will keep you updated on what's going on in terms of with Youth Stars and other organizations we're collaborating with. And don't forget that this Saturday is the West Island United peaceful rally against racism. I need to see everyone out there. There will be a lot of stakeholders there. There will be people from the school board there. There'll be teachers, principals, politicians. This is your chance to speak to them people. This is your chance to speak with them people. Talia Jackson said the board deflects to the principal, knowing fully that they can't make the decisions. It's a way to wash their hands. I agree. All right. We can stay here all day, man. Hey, what up, Don? How you doing? Brian Moda, thank you very much. Trifana, thank you. Talia, Nadine Wilson, Sabrina Maries, Essence Love. I'm down to get involved. My children went through this twice with the N-word. Wow. Jillian Bentley, Senior, thank you. Allison Saunders, thank you. Nika Nemi, merci, thank you. Nicole Jones, thank you. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. This was an amazing show. And share this. And I want to see you guys all come out on Saturday. All right? I'm out. Peace out, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. To my core. You know when something pisses you off so